Oh, hail friends. I think I was a bit late there with the introduction. Not that it matters. Just bumming around in Monsters and Memories again, just until I'm not sure what time the stream finishes, but I think if it finishes, I mean it's Monday morning for me, so but if it kind of finishes quite quickly, then yeah, then maybe I'll come back and do some EverQuest afterwards. Not sure. Just a little tip, but not really a tip. Is that this you can get like a bag from this bloke, basically straight away if you know what to say. But I'm actually not telling you what to say, what you got to say to get the bag. So there you go. What a bastard. What we got over here? I was playing for a bit yesterday afternoon, and yeah, it wasn't the best experience. I think it was kind of like the old four people running towards one mob kind of thing. You know, I hope. I don't. I mean, I. It's not really the sort of thing that I'm into anymore. I don't. We shouldn't be in a situation in 2025 where four people are running towards one mob because there's not enough mobs. So hopefully that's something that gets balanced and changed and stuff and whatnot. Always a bit of an issue that obviously because it's difficult to determine how many people are going to be playing your new MMO, I guess, before it comes out. But better to be safer than not and give people a good experience at the start. And there's a lot less people on this morning, so it's obviously much less of a problem. I still think over this. This is the other. This is kind of like the second. Like the zone we was in yesterday. This is like the other side of the city's version of that. And it's kind of got a similar problem, really. There's just a ton of like newbie mobs, but so like 1 and 2 level mobs and stuff, and some 3s. But there seems to be a bit of a gap again between that and again the same sort of thing as the other zone. It's got a couple of dog camps, but not a huge amount. The camps in this zone are predominantly quite high level bandit type dudes. Rattlesnakes are good. Their skins sell for quite a lot actually. They're quite OP. I don't think I'm going to bother fighting yellow mobs though right at this moment. I mean the test's going to go down soon anyway, so. So, having a chat with a friend on my Discord about release and stuff. I mean, I'll obviously play a shaman, but I might start off with. I say start off. I quite like the idea of a cleric actually. It was something that I've thought about quite a lot playing on P99, and I did recently start one. Just a class that's more group based. And just something a bit different from a role-playing aspect. Like I hope that the game introduces a lot more role-playing-y type things for classes, as I was saying yesterday. Just ideas and things that just make the classes more distinct. I got a Spirit of Wolf buff a little while ago. I'll check in a sec. I think my gamma nighttime filter might be on, so I'll check it in a sec. Hi mate, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, I didn't get on with Pantheon at all, so I guess it's kind of a bit of a thingy comparison, I think. Yeah, I didn't. I mean, Pantheon is a long way off of, like, you know, being. It's a long way off of being like a classic MMO, I think. Depending on what you think of classic MMOs, I think probably. I mean, this feels a lot more like a classic EverQuest. Just the feeling and the vibe and stuff, and you know, like mechanical interactions with things. I guess I need to kill snakes anyway for the quest. It's probably futile at this point. We're getting a message up saying in a moment saying server coming down. Skeletons don't seem to drop bags, I've found. I need to collect those. Oh, a skeleton. Yellow. That's too high for me, I would say. Let's go back over here. This is always, over here is always a favourite hunting spot. Level 3 or 4, but with the amount of people that are on, you know, everything's just less available. You got the crocodiles over here, but obviously they can't. Up the back here, all the mobs are level 3, apart from the rattlesnakes that are level 4. But yeah, it's normally it's pretty quiet over this back bit. But it's funny being. I don't know if it's. I think it's because obviously I'm a miserable old bloke now, but holy fucking shit! Like a new MMO, there always seems to be someone, more than one person who, I don't know, just feels this incessant need to keep talking in out of character. Like for attention. It's like, oh my god, please stop. These people just try to recreate some artificial environment that they remember from, you know, however long ago. But it just doesn't, it's not good looking now. Because everything's different. I don't know. So maybe it's me, a miserable old bastard. Oh, there we go. I could probably kill rattlesnakes, but next level. I think the filter's on. Defaults. Yes. There we go. I think that's probably looks a bit better for you now. Let's kill a rat. Not sure if these rats are social aggro, but we'll move that way anyway. Train the evocation up a bit. Only really started using it this level. The names that characters have got as well. Holy smoke. Oh, I thought I'm feeling a bit miserable this morning. The seagulls woke me up again at 3:30. So yeah, feeling a bit tired. Can we not be level 4 yet? Jesus Christ. Oh, I love the dwarf model, particularly with like a hood and a little backpack. I think adding the backpack to the model is a good idea. Really makes you look like you're going out on an adventure. with a backpack on. I haven't really been taking much notice of picking up all the crap and selling it, but I think I've probably got enough cash for a couple of spells. Hand in a few bone chips to the bloke. I'm not sure if you get any copper for that actually. You get a tiny amount of experience. I'm sure you used to get more. But it's almost probably not worth handing in unless you want the faction. Unless you need a faction for the cleric guild for some reason. And that, as I say, I can't remember if you get copper or not. I'll have to check it out. I'll have to have a look. Where's the bone chip bloke? Where's this bloke, Hank? Lol. I don't think. Yeah. That's not even worth handing them in anymore. Even though. Let's see what we've got. Level 4 spells. There's not really anything that chases. Is that a damage spell? Yeah. Probably buy the immunity one, maybe. But that is going to be like almost all of my cash. I've got a few bits to sell, but not a huge amount. Gate, Holy Strike. Who cares? I think I've used that spell before, and the damage seems underwhelming. It is another damage. It is another spell though. It is another attack though, and as a cleric, that's Ward of Dead. Probably not worth it right now. Impart Blessing. Okay, actually, I think probably only Holy Strike would be. I like the Divine Aegis one. Let's buy Holy Strike and go and sell some stuff. See if we can buy a second spell. Yeah, certainly. I know I'm repeating myself more than once, but it's certainly the most like classic EQ MMO out of the ones that are currently out or coming out. Not without its issues, of course, but what have I got to sell? Just some scraps. Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably the most positive thing about it so far is how it feels when you're playing it and stuff, which is quite important. Oh, I've come to the wrong bit. Oh, I've come right around here. I don't think I need to come around here. Don't think. There you go. Okay. Oh, those bat eyes are quite good. I start killing the rattlesnakes now for the skins. Oh, there you go. I can afford divine intervention. It never ceases to amaze me the psychology of players in what was essentially like a very limited test, and what they kind of go out of their way to achieve in a scenario where the playtime is quite small. Even people that I've seen from another test on this test, yeah, quite odd. I think we'll buy that one as well. Oh, okay, that's good. So that's actually an attack. So I can just do that. Yeah, hopefully you'll get some time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how long it's. I know it was supposed to be a weekend thing. I'm not sure how long it's going to stay up for. I guess it's probably still the weekend for some people. It's Monday morning for me. Not sure I've got my spells around the way that I want them, but what am I doing? You can be a shaman, yep. You sure can. Looks like he was licking his hand or something there when he was casting a spell. But then I also find it incredibly strange and annoying how most people seem to treat tests, like even closed tests, as just like a way to get ahead, you know. No, I haven't had any scarab stuff yet. Oh, look, everyone's rushing for the scarab. Great. I had an incident yesterday where I was running towards a mob, and someone else just randomly decided to do the same. Well, this is just like very limited testing at the moment. I mean, there's no, this is going to get probably. Yeah, I mean, there's no way that it's going to be like this when it's released, and it's just limited testing. It's not like you can log in every day. But as I said, you just get people see it as they just see it as just a game to play, or just a way to get ahead, so that when a game comes out, they can be the first to whatever. Yeah, early access is going to be like a new release on its own, where you actually pay a box price for it and stuff. As a priest of whatever kind you are, I haven't played a druid yet, but I definitely recommend getting yourself a rusty maul when you first start, because your blunt skill is just called bludgeon, so you can use one or two handed, which is good, and it does a lot of damage. It definitely looks like, when someone when someone blows on their fingernails and Definitely looks like that's what he's doing when he's casting a spell. Bang. Right, rattlesnakes. Rattlesnake skins sell for a lot. So, yeah. It's like he's holding his hand up to his mouth. I'm not sure if they are social rattlesnakes though, so I'll run it over this way. Yeah. Yeah. He's clearing out these nails with the magic. Yeah, I had a funny thing yesterday where, as I was saying, I was going to attack a mob and someone out of nowhere almost seemed to run in before me. And hilariously, it was a mob that they couldn't deal with and never could deal with in a million years. And it started to proceed to whack their butt. Oh, I've got meditation. Cool. And then expected me to help. And I just ran off. Which was incredibly hilarious. Not sure if... Does my buff work on other people? It should do. But I've got meditate now. Yeah, it's funny when people talk about quality of life stuff and whatnot, and what they see as quality of life. But I don't kind of think that classic MMOs needed too much of a quality of life. I think the quality of life stuff should be stuff that just helps you, improves your gameplay experience. So like making sure there's enough servers or enough mobs, you know. For obviously, I know this is just a weekend test, so obviously, you know. But yeah, like on release, making sure there's enough. So you make sure that 3-4 people are not running around trying to kill the same mob. That's not. The fact that it happened in EverQuest wasn't the fact that it was a great gameplay mechanic. You know, it was because it was just a limitation, like a technology limitation. There's no real excuse for it now. Don't know what's happened to the scarab carapaces. They've gone. Should be using my other attack. It only does a little bit of damage, but it all adds up. It's the only other DPS I've got. Let's be fair. Unless I want to spam a Yeah, I mean your experience should be difficult in a gameplay sense, but there's no excuse nowadays for I don't think a release where people are having to sit around because they can't find something to kill or something because there's too many players. That's something that needs to be thought about before the game is, you know. It's interesting. I think yesterday there was quite a few people talking about how dark it was and the issue with that. And yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I kind of think it is an issue, not really from a sense of gameplay, but I just think it just makes the game less accessible to more people. And yeah, I'm one of those who plays EverQuest and still like classic EverQuest, but there are certain mechanics that I don't really think add anything to the game anymore. Oh, it's dark at night. Who gives a shit? I don't. I just play the same way. Like, what I don't understand is like where, oh, it's more suspenseful. Bullshit, honestly. But I think I've become desensitized to that sort of stuff. As I said yesterday, like talking about death penalties, I just run around on P99 and I don't. It's not, I don't feel tense or anything. It's just an inconvenience, really. I want to be engaging with the game mechanics as much as possible, whether that's gathering or crafting or combat, whatever it may be. Exploring. I guess you could argue that maybe darkness is a part of exploring, but it's not really. I mean, I remember another MMO that I played recently. I mean, they changed it, but they started it off being really dark, and people just didn't play the game at night. And what's the point of that? They would just go and sit somewhere until the sun came up. Great. Yeah, I don't know. I was talking to my son about. I mean, it sounds like my son doesn't play as many MMOs now, but he used to. He used to do like a top 1% guild thing in WoW, like a long time ago and stuff. We talk about it sometimes, and I don't know. I mean, I've tried to get him to play EverQuest, but he doesn't play. But it wouldn't be things like darkness and stuff that, whether it was or not, that didn't. I just don't. I don't think. I think there are some hangovers from classic MMOs that are just not really a thing anymore. And you see, when a developer implements a QOL, you'll see some people defend it, but then someone will then ask for another quality of life issue, and then it becomes the whole "I'll go back to WoW" kind of stuff. But the quality of life issue that they champion, and just because they want to kiss some ass, is like no different, really. It's like, yeah, I just think there are some hang-ups. I think there are some hang-ups that don't really have much impact anymore, just because of the time. I was kind of repeating what I said yesterday, but I just think, or the day before, whatever it was, that, yeah, with less information available, becomes less information means more mystery, but that's kind of not really the case anymore. I need to be healing myself, probably. Yeah, definitely. You can't please everyone, but I think that I think it's probably worth trying to please the majority of the audience that you do have. I mean, I've no idea who the people were who were complaining about the darkness. I don't know what games they played. They obviously haven't played a version of EverQuest that had that. Which, I mean, let's be fair, I think EverQuest was probably the only game that did that, really. I never remember having any issues in Asheron's Call or Ultra Online. Ultra Online could be quite dark, but again, not so that it impacted your gameplay to any extent. I think it would probably be better if you could get the lighting right. I think that's probably the key thing. Like if you can get the lighting from the moon correct. I think like even in EverQuest, to be honest with you, I think it's probably one of its weaknesses is that when it was dark at night, it wasn't natural. Obviously, you didn't have dynamic lighting and all that kind of stuff then, but the darkness never looked natural. You just couldn't see, and a light off in a distance didn't really look like a light, obviously because of the graphical engine. Yeah. But maybe you can get the lighting right now with today's engines and stuff, and you're a bit of a whiz in that department. It might work. But I kind of don't feel the danger or the tension anymore from that kind of thing. The same with running around a zone or dying or whatever. It's I'm not sure if the thing is as well is that the issue with these things as well, not an issue, but it's pretty easy to work around them. I mean, I just open up my NVIDIA control panel and just up the gamma a little bit, you know, and it solves the problem. So actually, as I said, I don't mind either way because it's not a problem. But I think it's more of an accessibility thing. You know, as I said, like playing this previous game, there were a number of people who said, I just can't play at night. And I just think at that point, because they couldn't, because their vision they couldn't see or whatever, I think at that point you probably, you know, it probably makes sense to at least consider that maybe. The guy keeps getting stuck in a hitting animation. That one, which is actually much better than the animation I've. There you go, bash, bash. Yeah, it's weird. Like a normal attack for my guy is that side swipe, but then he does this overhead animation as well that he seems to get stuck in. It's almost like a bug, like that. Like he's attacking, like he's doing that, but there's nothing there. Well, that would be much better off as the attack, because that's how I would naturally swing a big hammer. I put it over my right shoulder, being right-handed, and just bring it straight down. I wouldn't try and swipe it across the side. I think maybe it depends on what race you pick, but infravision is now like a choice. Like you can pick it or not as a you know, a perk or whatever. I think that animation might be the gathering one, the mining one maybe. I'm not sure why it's getting stuck into that animation when I'm not attacking or doing anything, but it's a little bug. Yeah, I'd much rather that animation. Yeah, that swinging the hammer across, sweeping it across from the side. That's better. That's how it should be. That's weird. That's almost got. He's almost got two different looking attacks. Ah, no, that's definitely not an attack. That one. That's just happening as a bug. But I would much rather have that as an attack. No luck with the skins at the moment. Let's go and see. There's a quest for some classes where you get scarab shells. Did I get one? I got one, didn't I? I got one. Where you can turn them in and get some kind of starter armor kind of thing. It's very satisfying to get a nice big hit on you with your two-hander. Yeah, I think I don't actually. It's yeah. So that's I like that attack animation, but sometimes there's like a side swipe one. Oh, he's consistently doing that the overhead one now, which is cool. He's, he's obviously not, obviously not convinced it's dead. So he's giving it a couple more whacks, which I'm all for. I'll just increase the gamma for you again. So we've got washed out central. Ooh, that's a big hit. Double attack. But not really. I should be picking up the crap and just selling it, shouldn't I? Definitely the rat killer. Kill 10 rats. Now I need to turn up the camera a bit for myself. It's a nice scenes in the game. You can just sit and look at stuff. It's very immersive. So you started a wizard. How are you getting on with the caster tower locations, trainer stuff? A lot of teleports around there to move you around. Get a little bit confusing at first. Yeah, well, it's kind of it's like low poly, high textures, high texture, I think. Um, and and I wasn't sure about it at first, but I think it kind of works. I don't think it's got the charm of classic EverQuest. But yeah, I think it works. Took a little while to grow. I think it looks most odd on the characters, actually, themselves. I'm not a massive fan of the ogre model at the moment, but oh, let's see if we can get a carapace. Oh, there we go. It's 2. I'm not sure. Maybe you need 4 for the breastplate or something. Maybe. So I guess is the one you might as well go for. What's my guy doing? Yeah, I mean, because it's low poly, it's quite flat. So when you look at a face, it almost seems like quite a high detailed drawing or painting rather than. There's not a huge amount of definition, obviously, and it's. Oh wow, two in a row. That is cool. I think I've got it on a web page somewhere. Or maybe not. Yeah, the breastplate needs 4 carapaces. Okay, look if there's any other. Is that a skeleton? Dead. The RNGesus be with us. Will we get 3 in a row? Oh, not quite. Not quite. Oh man, people incessantly feel the need to keep typing stuff in so everyone can see it. Fucking hell, no one cares. Jesus. Turn it off. I don't think it's a technical thing. I guess it's just more of an art style thing. I think whoever nailed the art in EverQuest was obviously a bit of a either incredibly lucky or a evil genius. I think it's probably hard to replicate that. I do like this, but I don't think it has character. But I think trying to replicate EverQuest, I think it's probably a tough ask, maybe. You almost have to, you know. I mean, I'm not sure if Unity or whatever it is does any kind of retro themed or skinned, you know, graphics and stuff. I guess you have to draw it all yourself, maybe. I think there are certain things actually that look very similar to EverQuest style, like the rats and the bats, for example. But a lot of everything else, not so much. I think it's just like when you look at, when you look at the goblins and gnolls and stuff, and you know, I don't think you could. I don't think that you could match that characterful. I think EverQuest is one of the games. So obviously we play it in higher resolutions now than we used to, or I used to anyway. And EverQuest is one of those few. I mean, I love like mid 90s 3D graphics up to early 2000s. I play a lot of games in that era. And the EverQuest is one of the ones that really does scale up really well to high resolution as well. You play it in a high resolution, it looks even better. But it doesn't lose that charm, you know, that it had. Oh, rattle skin. There's a group down there at the beach and the alligators, and all I can say, they must be doing a lot of talking because I've been down there a lot, and like a level 4 character could keep that clear. That like one dude could keep that clear, that that area. So if you're a group, then yeah, you must be sitting around a lot. So a quick nosy over here, see if we can find a. Even though I think the drop rate is quite small, and I was just lucky to get in that 2 in a row. Let's see if we can find a scarab bumming around that someone hasn't killed. Yeah, thing of visuals as well is that look at I mean, even they couldn't replicate it. I mean, you look at the absolute travesty that the, you know, with the Lukeling graphics. Holy shit! I mean, they thought it was an upgrade. Jeez, that was crazy. Don't think there's any scarabs over here. Normally you can see the little beady eyes. Let's go zone over. Sometimes you get quite a few here. That's a fire beetle. Oh, it's got a lot of rattlesnakes. Oh, they're all fire. Oh, there's one. Just there. Someone running towards it. Are they running towards it? Oh, yeah, they are. Let's kill some rattlesnakes then. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, literally every polygon and texture is just feels like it was. I don't know. I'd like to see what I liked about EverQuest as well, with regards to character models, class, you know, character models and stuff. Is shit, hit the dude. Lol, you smoke. Thank you. Go sit down somewhere, I think. What I liked as well is the cultural aspect of choosing a class, choosing a race as well. So, you know, you pick a dwarf and all the dwarfs start in the same place, and all the dwarves look relatively culturally similar, and it all makes sense. That's what I liked about it as well. I like the fact, yeah, and culturally it was also different as well, like the architecture and whatnot. Who's that dude? Yeah, I haven't played the Oblivion remake yet, but to be honest with you, I was kind of wondering if they were going to do, like, I'd quite like if there was a remake where you could downgrade the visuals to. I think there's quite a few interesting things in the new game beyond the visuals, but I'd like to be able to play it with the original visuals because yeah. But then, I mean, I'm never one for modding, like graphics. Like I very rarely use graphic mods. I'd like to just play the games as they were intended. So I mean, I would never use. I don't think I could. Maybe I'd try to look at it, but I wouldn't want to play classic EverQuest with a visual mods. I don't think. I think the only game I play where that has visual mods is the Stalker mods, the Gamma mod. But that is kind of using the same engine really. It's just enhancing, like volumetrics and lighting and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've never really used visual mods. Not a big fan. I think the last one I used for a single player game was, I think someone did a visual mod for Deus Ex, and I downloaded it and played it a bit, but next time I play through Deus Ex I wouldn't use that mod again. It just wasn't, not my cup of tea. There are some different biomes. It is a lot of this area and the surrounding zones are predominantly that, but there are some lot of forested areas, and I'm hoping for some snowy ones and all that kind of stuff. Going to come over here. Give me a second. I can kind of think I can hear something going on in my house, but I'm sure it can't be. I'm the only one here. If you hear screaming, then it's probably me murdering a burglar or something. We live near the sea, and so obviously there's more seagulls than normal. Although in the UK you get seagulls wherever you go nowadays. And where we used to live, when we first moved here, where we used to live, there was one or two seagulls that basically you leave the back door open, and they would come into the house, which is not what you want. If you're American, seagulls in the UK are like pterodactyls for some reason. And if you've got a greater blackback seagull on your case, they eat pterodactyls for breakfast. They used to come in. I think because we had two cats, and they used to come in and try and get the food. And I remember a couple of times they got in so far that they were freaking out, we were freaking out, and that we couldn't get it out. It was like, yeah. There's a real thing down the seafront where they had to start putting warnings up, and people used to have to be careful, because if you're walking along eating food, the seagulls will literally just dive down on you, and that is an experience you don't want. I don't know why I have so many seagull stories. I guess it's living here, but I think the most frightening seagull story the most frightening seagull experience I've ever had was I was walking along, and there was a pigeon lying on the floor, obviously injured, and it couldn't move. And there was a great big seagull over it, pecking at it. And I went over there, and the pigeon was still alive, but helpless, and it looked up at me. Probably what am I doing? Probably petrified that I was there as well. And I was like, oh my God. I just walked off. Because what could you do? I thought to myself, well, I could put the seagull out of his misery, but I didn't quite feel... Rather than that, I thought I'd leave it to get eaten alive by a seagull. How terrible is that? Yeah. Yeah, seagulls make up a big part of your life. When you live on the coast. And of course, at the moment they're waking us up at for 3:30, 4 in the morning because there's a nest on the roof in the house next door. Jeez. Anyway. It's much cooler in the UK today, which is nice. Obviously now when you any temperature approaching 30 nowadays, then they blame it on you specifically for not recycling or, you know, or not nicking your grand's money to pay for heating bills and stuff. But it's a bit cooler today. Which is nice. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the greatest RPGs ever made. I didn't mind the first one either. Actually, I'm not sure how many people actually played the first one. It's quite a different game, but yeah, I enjoyed the first one as well, which I think was like about Knights Templary kind of thing. I think. Yes, Mark. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a game that I play through. That is a game that I do use modded, obviously, because it was broken quite a lot, but not visually. Like I still love the visuals. And you reminded me that it's been a while since I played it last, so I might have to do a thingy playthrough. What's the crazy clan where you get all the cool chat options? Can't remember what they're called. Is it the Machiavellians? Oh, I can't remember. I have to check it out again. If we can get one more scarab, we can go and get a breastplate. I mean, I kind of, I find myself streaming more regularly now, so maybe it's something that I could start doing. But yeah, a long time ago, I thought it would be quite interesting to stream all of my favourite games, kind of thing, like completely through and whatnot. But I didn't really stream regularly enough for it. But maybe now, yeah. Yeah, so it would be like, like Vampire the Masquerade, Deus Ex, probably only the first one. Well, I do quite like the couple of remakes that they did a bit later on. Oh, there we go. Cool. So we can just go and grab ourselves a breastplate. Yeah, sorry, a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, first Deus Ex, first couple of Thief games, the first 3 Mass Effect games, the first 2 Dragon Age games, probably some of the early dungeon crawlers, like the Beholders, Dungeon Master, that kind of thing. I kind of think that they're kind of like peak. I think from a design point of view, I think those games, as with some other games as well, are kind of like peak game design. In comparison to now, jeez. Oops. The Stalker games as well. The remasters were really disappointing. Although I have heard that they've done some patches for them, so it might be worth loading it up again at some point and having a look. Oops. Right, so this guy is where you turn in shells and stuff. If you turn in the beetle ones, he gives you a little bag. That one. I better make a slot just in case. What do we need? I think you need to turn in 4 and 3. 4 and 3, yeah. So you need to turn in varying amount of shells and legs. Get you a different piece. Oops. Because the scarabs also drop legs, so you got to remember to loot those. Otherwise, you. So I think it's 4 and 3 to get the breastplate. Hey, and you end up with like a green shell breastplate, which is pretty good. I think it's got charisma on it or something. Or was it minus charisma actually? Oh no, wrong one. 5 hit points, -1 charisma, 5 AC. Pretty much everyone can wear it apart from pure casters. And I think there's a complete set plus a shield. I think. I say a complete set, like all of the covering all of the. I tell you what I like the goblin race as well. Actually, I enjoyed playing a goblin shaman. Seemed to fit quite well. Sell. I need to keep those. I think I must have sold those before by mistake. I don't need the beetle shells anymore, I don't think. So, oh, thank you for Spirit of Wolf, whoever cast that. So, very nice of you. I think the most modern games I liked, predominantly the first one, kind of the second one. After that, it all started getting a bit, you know, were the Dishonored games. I thought the world was very immersive. It was very good. Is it the blacksmithy type dudes that? Is it one of these guys that buy the? Oh yeah. I'm gonna get 5. I've got no use for them. I don't want them taking up my inventory. If we run around to the, I think these rattlesnake skins are still worth a fair bit. They were originally. Well, they were not that long ago. Oops. The tannery. Oh, excuse me. It's just round here, I think. So. Oh yeah, 87 copper for 2 for each. I kind of feel that XP feels a bit slower to me in this public test. Maybe I've killed a lot of white mobs to get not quite 3 bubbles. Maybe it's not that bad. I don't know. Actually, no, that's not true. I actually loved vanilla Cyberpunk as well. Don't think I'll be bothering with Cyberpunk too much, but yeah, I played that a lot. There we go. Let's check over here first. Hey, rattlesnakes. I think I would agree in the sense that it was not. I don't think a lot of the RPG elements were fairly superficial. I think it was more like, for me, it was more like the world. I mean, I kind of interacted with the story. The vanilla story I really liked. And I liked some of the characters and stuff. You know, it was. I like the fact you could pick 3 different backgrounds, and the starting was slightly different, and there were some interactions through the game that you would have depending on your background and all that kind of. I thought that was pretty good. So there were some RPG elements there, but for the most part, yeah, it was pretty. I mean, I just like exploring the world. It's a massive, detailed map. I love cyberpunk themed stuff anyway, so that was how I spent a lot of my time playing the game. Really, was running around. It's one of those games where, like, on the map, you had loads of side activities to do, a bit like a Ubisoft game, I guess. So I mostly interacted with those, and I progressed the story when I felt like it, kind of thing. There was some great. There are some great quests, great writing, great side quests. In the vanilla game, anyway. It's even worse now, but you could tell with the expansion that they were starting to go down the woke shithole where they find themselves. But the original game, yeah, the characters, the characters are brilliant. Rogue. Who's she? Action RPG, yeah, I would say, yeah. Um, I think that's probably a fair. But the world itself is just amazing. It's so detailed, so rich. Um, and there's a lot going on, but I guess it's just if you like those kind of things, you know, going on. If you like that kind of Ubisoft, there's an activity over here if you want to go and do it kind of thing. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, the cyberpunk setting is really amazing. Um, Most people don't seem to understand. They think they do. I used to be a member of the the cyberpunk Reddit for a little while when the game came out, and it was quite funny. You get people like going, "Oh well, God, I've noticed that we're actually now in the cyberpunk kind of like it's real life," and it's like, yeah, I thought that in the 80s. Like, do you not think there's ever been like big corporations and stuff? It's amazing how some people just have such a small frame of reference for their ideological and political like viewpoints. It's like Elon Musk equals we must be in a cyberpunk dystopia, when you know in the 80s it was just someone different like Richard Branson or whatever. You know, it's just crazy. I did, yeah. I played that a lot on the Amiga. Yeah, that was really cool. I think they kind of fucked up the second game, but the first one was really cool. I still like games. I've got like a selection of books that I read through, that I repeat read every now and again as well, and not just Neuromancer, but like that set of books in general. I read through every now and again, or listen mostly is what I do with books now. But some of them are not available on Audible, so. I think if I can take it off or not. Yeah, I think the this armor set here, kind of highlights the low poly, high kind of texture, high detail thing quite well actually. In that, like I can see your point of view, because even though it looks reasonably detailed, it does look quite flat, and strangely, it looks actually less detailed than some of the EverQuest armors, particularly like the Velius ones. Talking about we was talking about earlier on about streaming old games and stuff. I think the problem also is that I've got like it's not that I kind of lost interest in like creating content and stuff. It's just that I really just didn't know what to do with it. You know, it wasn't. It reached a point where my health got a bit better, and it's hard to justify doing something every day that you're not getting any financial feedback from. And then I thought to myself, yeah, well, I mean, I could try and make it a thing like I used to do advertising on YouTube. I stopped doing that, and like you need so many views there to make any revenue from that anyway. And I thought to myself, and I often think to myself, like maybe just have a good old crack at streaming and see what. I think everything is just so saturated though. Like I really feel sorry for people who. I'm not quite sure why I keep getting recommended them, but I get recommended quite a lot of gaming videos, and I look at it, and the production levels are pretty good. You know, like better than mine, and the person's obviously. I've said this before, but the person's obviously like spent some money on their rig and stuff, and they've done a bit of video editing and whatnot, and they've done a video on something, and it's like, and it's got like less than 10 views like, after a few days, and you go on their channel and it's all pretty much the same, and you think, God, it must be so soul destroying. I mean, the old ways of building a channel don't say. I mean, I also was looking at there's like a Reddit for small YouTubers and streamers and stuff, and the amount of people on there who kind of like, you know, are finding it so difficult to break through, and they get advice and stuff, but I don't really think that advice, I'm not sure if it's relevant anymore. I think basically what it seems to be now is that if you're lucky enough for someone like Asmongold to react to your video, or someone like that, then that seems to be the springboard for. That's not to say you can't consistently build something over time. I think the other thing as well is difficult. I mean, I'm really, really not trying to make it sound like I'm some sort of, like John Lydon or whatever. But it's like I don't want to play the game either that you have to play. You know, like I've been playing quite a lot of Dune recently, and there was a guy. There's a guy who I just really gravitated towards him because he swears in his videos and all that kind of stuff. And it's not that swearing's particularly clever or great, but it just felt more real. And he did a video the other day saying all of these channels that just churn out, like Baldur's Gate 3 comes out, 50 million things I wish I knew before I played it. Dune comes out, 6 million things I wish I knew, just churning out. And these channels are churning out the same stuff over and over again each time a new game comes out. And some of them are clearly copying each other as well. They're just nicking other people's content. And that's not really the sort of thing that I want to do, but it does, from a gaming perspective, it does seem to be, unless you're mega talented, which I'm not, I'm not really subscribed to too many people now, but like unless you're like a Seth or something or whatever, or some some YouTuber like that who's obviously just naturally very humorless and writes amazing scripts, humorful I should say, then yeah, it's difficult. I ain't got that talent. Well, I've never tried, but I'm sure I probably haven't. And the other thing as well is I just can't kiss arse for access. I really find the MMO scene quite repugnant from a player. And I'm on a rant again, I do apologise. From a player and a content creator perspective, it's like people just seem to go from one MMO to the next, saying the same stuff. Oh my God, your MMO, it's the most amazing thing ever since the last time I said that last week about the previous MMO I was playing. Oh my God, it's so much like EverQuest. Oh my God. Let me suck your balls, please. And they were saying exactly the same thing a week ago about another game and then another game, and I just can't do that. Content creators as well. Oh, there's this new indie MMO coming. I better start making videos about it and kissing arse. It's like fucking hell. So I just don't think I'm a very good YouTuber really, or streamer, because I'm not talented enough to create my own niche. I don't think, and I don't want to play the algorithm. So it's like just. Yeah, I just can't do it. I just find that sort of stuff just repugnant. It's like, and it's obviously, and it's not what people want. Like no matter what a developer says, they want someone to go, all your games are greatest, let me suck your balls. You know, they don't want someone going, oh, well, this is a bit shit, that's a bit shit, and, you know, what's the idea with this and whatnot. They just don't, that's not what they want, no matter what they say. They want to go into a streamer who's going, oh my God, this game is like the second coming. Like the same, like last week, the other game I played, that was the second coming, but now this really is the second coming. You know, it's like, oh God, all right then. Yeah, but maybe there's a niche for streaming. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's loads of people doing it. Maybe there's a niche for stream. Yeah, exactly. Maybe there's a niche for streaming classic games and whining about modern games. That would be. The thing that I was really interested in is the social and the ideological aspect of things, but gaming in particular. But that is also swamped now by people that are just, well, you've got people that are kind of who like think a game like Dragon Age of Algard is the greatest thing since sliced bread. They don't really, because they don't even buy it, because no one buys it, but they make out they do on social media. And then you've got the other people on the other side who claim to be counterculture, like Critical Drinker and Hill versus Babyface and all those people, but they're not really. They're just kind of grifters, really. You know, like they're actually pretty moderate. What they do is they go after your Ubisofts and your Disneys, because it's easy to go after those and go all woke boogeyman. But when it's a series that they like, or they'll go online and see that the general trend around this particular game is pretty positive, despite the fact that it's got DEI out the wazoo, they'll then ignore that and play it and enjoy it and stuff. So there's no real, I don't think there's any real continuity or or any common decency in these people. I just think I think they're there to scream at companies that people like you to scream at, but actually they're not really interested in counterculture. The real counterculture people, I think, are probably some of them are just smaller, like people like a 21 Kiloton is a British bloke who I quite like. Mac, of course, you know, until he went the same way, couldn't cope with the fact that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was getting a load of counterculture pushback, and he obviously didn't want it to be, because he liked it, so he started sounding like the people on the other side. And some of them are kind of just a bit too edgy, really. Like, I mean, I watch people like, I'm not sure how he pronounces it. I'm not sure if it's Kyle or something. He's a black guy that kind of does these funny raps at the beginning of his videos. And there's a couple of other guys who kind of fall into territory where, you know, are they joking or are they kind of a bit bad, a bit dodgy? People like Synthetic Man, those kind of people. But yeah, the thing I would give those kind of people is at least they're consistent. You know, they don't stop being counterculture for a game just because they happen to like it. You know, whether they like the series or not, they'll generally be honest about it. Hey Ben, how you doing, mate? Yeah, I unsubscribe from Mac as well. I just got no interest in that kind of, like, if you're going to be counterculture, then be counterculture. Don't just pick and choose. You know, it's not like. I think people also don't understand what counterculture means, particularly. I mean, counterculture has to mean counter-political or whatever, but really it's not. It's like, I mean, even when the Tories were in the UK, you know, culturally things were still very, very radically left in the country itself. Or that was kind of what you were seeing on the TV anyway, and what you still see as well. So I think some people get that confused as well. It's got little to do with the government that's in, really. and everything's to do with the general zeitgeist you see like around the media, or the, you know, the legacy media or mainstream media or whatever. They're all as bad though, mate, to be honest with you. I mean, as I said, I unsubscribed from Mac, but all of these people claiming to be these great advocates are not really. You know, they're all like they're all the same, like all the EFAP guys for the most part. You know, they will pick and choose what they decide to go after, and for the most part, they will excuse it when it's something that they like. It's very common. Yeah, that was something I actually kind of started thinking about making videos about, but it's just one of those things. Also, do you want to get involved with it really? Like, do I want to wake up in the morning and get a load of comments where people are just being morons and having to deal with that? Probably not. You know. I should create a channel where I take the form of, like, I do like a VTuber thing where I've got like a shaman avatar and I give out terrible life advice while playing games. That might be quite funny, but not real life advice, obviously. Oops, dad advice. I think one of the issues is the parasocial relationship side of things. Obviously, the internet is obviously the cause of it, but it's just off the scale. Like when that Mac thing was going on, it's like you have to try and look at it from a standpoint that's not emotional, from a logical standpoint. And if you take a guy who used to say lots and lots of things, but then this guy suddenly starts saying the opposite things, because he was given early access to the game and because he just likes the series. Well, obviously logically there's a discrepancy there. It's not like people are over emotional or they're making it up. It's clearly this person's stance very strongly seemed to be this, and then it changed because a game that he liked came under the similar sort of fire that he would give to games as well. So it's a logical thing. It doesn't have to be an emotional thing. But the amount of people who obviously developed a parasocial relationship with him to a point where they're blind to it. They just don't see anything at all. You know, anything negative has to be the other person's fault. They can't look at it objectively. Yeah, the parasocial thing is really odd. It must be really hard for people like Asmongold, I think. I mean, he generally doesn't seem to care, but and I'm sure, and I don't think he does, but if you're emotionally slightly different to him and you're a big streamer and you've got to deal with that kind of thing, it must be really hard. I don't think I've picked up any more scarab shells since the last time. I was watching. I guess I'm still subscribed to. I do still subscribe to a couple of the popular ones who are part of that group. I think Nerdrotics is still pretty, like, he won't particularly, like, I think he's still mostly pretty genuine. Although there's been a couple of times where he's watched something and he's just ignored stuff, you know. So kind of him. And there's a couple of guys that he does a podcast with, who again kind of, I guess, kind of pretty much come under the we're not taking any shit kind of thing. I think there's that one guy called Ryan Kinnell or something. Is that his name? Or maybe that's a famous person. I can't remember. There's a guy called Ryan anyway who I think is part of the Geeks and Gamers thing with another bloke. He's brutally honest. Maybe maybe that's why he's not as popular. I don't know. Yeah. Hey Liz, how you doing? Oh, did you put in a long one? I definitely prefer the. I think I definitely prefer the dwarf model to the one. I was never a massive. I'm not quite sure what it was, but I'm never a massive fan of the dwarf model in EverQuest. That's why I never really played any dwarves. I wasn't a fan. I think if they could have given them more beard, a bit more beard, and whatnot, I think it would have been cool. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan. Probably the only model I would say, apart from the XR two-handed attack animations. Like obviously, people only pretend to like that, really. Holy shit! Yeah, it's taken me about 2 days to get enough scarab shells to get one breastplate. The healing animation is incredibly weird. It almost looks like he's trying to bandage rather than it being a. It's like it actually looks like he's playing an instrument. Yeah, on other characters before, I kind of seem to have gotten like full sets pretty quickly, but yeah, it's been a bit slow this time. Saying that though, it's been a case of like yesterday when I was playing, it was a case of like 6 people chasing around one mob, kind of monotony. So I guess I probably haven't killed as many as normal. Yeah, my guy earlier on, my guy was just hammering the ground with his hammer for no reason. So I think there's a problem there. I haven't done any gathering or anything though with this dude. It just started happening. Yeah, and when I'm healing, it definitely looks like he's playing an instrument. Oh yeah, he's definitely plucking some strings there. So yeah, everyone's become a bard. For anyone who watches the video later, though, as I said, I think I said in the stream on Saturday that if you, I mean, I've pointed out the good and the bad of the game. You know, if there's bad, I'm going to say there's bad, and there is. But like the feeling of just being in a world like killing mobs and stuff, and just sitting around and soaking up the atmosphere. This game is so by far the closest that you'll get to classic EverQuest. So if you've been playing on P99 for any length of time, I'm sure you've probably been playing this anyway, but yeah, it really has got that kind of vibe. But it's something that's almost not, it's intangible almost, how to describe it. Like why does this feel like it and other games don't? But it just does, just that feeling of when you're interacting with a mob. Yeah. Yeah. I guess, yeah, I guess things are much less of a mystery now, though, aren't they? I just think the way like people fucking treat games as well now. As I was saying earlier on, I've seen people running around in these limited tests, who you see running around in another test, if you know what I mean. And they're like mega high level, like real try hard and stuff. I'm thinking like, what are you doing? Like, you know, these characters are temporary. Like, what? I don't understand. Like, why? Some people just use it not for testing, but it's just like a way. So when the game goes live, boom, they're the first to do everything. You know, it's just what the fuck. I found on P99 though, and I get this is definitely my fault, is that I definitely played too many shaman because I started a cleric over there, and it as a race I don't normally do and stuff. The game can feel so different, like when you know. But I think that's probably my fault from playing similar, playing the same class over and over again. You play a different one, it just feels so fresh. And even playing a different race you don't normally play also is, but not dwarves. So I just don't like dwarves. I'm not a fan of the wood elves either. Actually, I don't mind them in some of the armours; they look pretty cool. But it's all green, isn't it? That's the thing with it. Yeah, I guess it has been a long time. I just think some people just take it too seriously. For the point kind of where we are and for the type of test it is. But as I said, I just think it's just a desire to get ahead, isn't it? To be the first. Maybe some of these people were heavy P99 raiders who are looking for something, you know. Something new to rinse. Is that the sun coming up or going down? I think it's going down. Over there, is it? I don't know. I guess it's difficult in an MMO, but as someone who comes from a testing background, I guess the sort of testing that you could like testing an MMO is not leveling to 60 and then killing some high level content. I mean, I'm talking about obviously single player games, but yeah, testing. The MMO equivalent of testing would have been going into a dungeon and pulling the first mob in the dungeon 1,000 times to see what happens, and then giving feedback, and then pulling the second mob and the first mob 1,000 times to see what happens, and then doing it with different classes and stuff. And obviously, I understand that that's difficult, And I guess that's why when MMOs come out, they have more problems than other games, because you can't do that. But I mean, like in this test yesterday, and I'm not against it. When this game comes out, I'll probably buy myself a couple of accounts. I ain't got a problem with it. But yes, on Saturday when I was playing, in like this limited test, there was some guy running around with like 3 boxes. Like, why have you got 3 boxes in like a... And you see it a lot in the other test as well. I don't get it. It's like... You're not really testing. As I said, like, testing would be interacting with a mob however many times of each class to see what happens, etc. I don't know, as I said, I know it's different for an MMO, but it's like... I mean, like when I worked in testing, you would have to... Like when the PlayStation first came out, you would press the reset button on the PlayStation like 100 times to see if it crashed the game or something. You know, all this, that's kind of like testing, really. Although that's obviously like more of a physical aspect of interaction. But that's what testing should be about. But as I said, I think some people come in with the guise of testing, but they just want it. They just want to use the time to get ahead when the game comes out. And then maybe not stick around that long because they run out of content, you know. Yeah, but you could. But I think it's, as I said, I think it's probably difficult, and I'm sure that more testing would go. So, like, I would imagine if you're the tester for this game, or if you're a tester for an MMO, if you're like lead tester, you can't rely on players to do it. You just can't do it. You know, you would need to like organise a testing team. I don't know, of like maybe 3 or 4 groups, and those 3 or 4 groups are rotating content at various levels. So, you know, you make yourself level 10 and you go and test some content in a group in a dungeon. Then you make yourself level 20 and you go to another dungeon or whatever. That's, you know, and that's kind of, from a player point of view. I don't feel that. I feel that anyone playing these tests, rushing to 60, you know, I don't think they're doing it for a testing perspective. I just think they're doing it for first and to have the knowledge when the game comes out. Yeah, everything, you need to run through all the quests, testing it, not just running through the quest to make it work, but also trying to kind of like, you know, we used to have to try and break quests because it would be, you know, because back when I was doing testing and I was working as a producer for a time, you didn't, like, we used to send patches out on floppy disks, so you couldn't really afford for there to be, although there was. I remember Daggerfall was like a fucking shit show. I think we had CD patches for Daggerfall. But yeah, you could like you couldn't afford those kind of issues. I think things like drop rates are a numbers game. So if the system's working in the background, obviously you've got to test it, obviously, but you probably don't have to test, if it's all using the same formula, you probably don't have to test every single drop, you know, from every single mob, unless it's bugged, of course. I mean, I think those are the kind of things that where maybe you can use the player base more for, particularly like, you know, if you've had a group playing in like low level dungeon, for example, and they're used to something dropping from a mob and it's not dropping, that kind of feedback's quite useful. Mechanically, though, how the game functions, but I would imagine that now you must have a simulation for that. Like, I don't know, but I can't imagine that testing drops is having to go around killing every mob until you get. There must be a simulation you can run in the background for that. Like log up a test server, like spawn a rat or something, and just run a simulation to see what's dropping. So the certain stuff should be. Well, you think certain stuff should be automated now. Well, we had some stuff that was automated even back in the 90s. So, yeah. I guess it's not easy from a technology point of view. You know, you need to have the capability of doing it, I guess. Yeah. I think there was an EverQuest one, but there used to be some stuff where you could simulate games. I used to love running those. It was so interesting to watch. I think there was an EverQuest one where it had the EverQuest values and you could just run, you could run it in some way. It was automated in some way. I can't remember what it was called. I used to enjoy playing games a lot also where you could... I still quite like it actually in games like Dragon Age and Mass Effect, where you can kind of stack up commands and then see what happens. I'd often do playthroughs where I wouldn't interfere with the initial the initial round of choices that I'd made, just to see what would happen. Basically, it's all really interesting, that stuff. Yeah, EverQuest is still a bit of a mystery in that regard to me today. Like I've done quite a lot of testing, particularly with the warrior, because I was raising so many weapon skills, but it doesn't seem to be. I don't know. I'm not sure if there is a thing under the hood that is like, if this happens and this happens, then you get a skill up. I just wonder if it's just, it's just, maybe it's just a percentage chance based on a stat or something, and increasing strength, for example, gives you a small incremental it. Obviously, what I've noticed as well is that, I guess this could possibly just be because it feels that way, but in EverQuest it feels as though the higher level you are, you just get, the skill ups seem to come quicker. Like I was finding that as a warrior, whereas I couldn't do it before, I could pretty much just get my +5 in almost all my weapon skills pretty much early on in the level. I know the levels take longer to progress through, but it just seemed quicker. But I guess that could be because I was increasing a stat that was helping with that. And also it could be that if you play an ogre warrior and you twink strength as a stat, for example, it's kind of like scaled. So having 250 strength at level 1 doesn't really have any impact because you're level 1 and it knows you are and it knows you've twinked. But maybe as you get higher in level, it kind of unlocks that stat, so it has more of an impact. Yeah, but you definitely gain skill as you go up. It's interesting. Yeah, I never really could work it out. I think with EverQuest it's difficult because I guess I didn't really get into TAC P that much, but it had soft and hard, so it's like, you know, I never really got into on TAC P, but I think that kind of thing almost needs like 2 boxes, I think. So as a warrior, like if I also had a shaman the same level and I can buff stats and then run some scripts or whatever and see what the outcome is, which I know some people have done. It probably gives you more of a start off at base stats. Because it's also never really worked out if if stat. Sometimes it felt to me as though stats from buffs, like spell buffs, acted differently from like +5 strength on an item, for example. You know, but again, who knows? No idea. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the only way to really test what impact like a diet is having, or a lifestyle change, or different lifestyles, is to get two twins essentially and get them to live the life for 20 years. That's the only real way you can tell. Get a pair of twins, should I say two twins? That makes sense, does it? Yeah, I think stats had such a small impact on EverQuest outside of one or two things. So I think charisma probably had a bigger impact. Charisma had a bigger impact, I think, on charm duration and whatever it may be than maybe strength had for a warrior. I mean, I think I'm right in saying that I don't think strength actually really increased the damage. I think strength just meant that the higher the strength just meant that you would hit for your maximum damage more often. I think, or you know, you would hit in the higher range of your maximum damage more often. I'm not actually sure that strength actually increased damage in that as such. Dex was actually one that was quite surprising as well. I remember watching a couple of streams and watching someone lowest damage was higher, yeah, rather than increasing the max damage. Watching some people testing out Dex for procs and stuff, and yeah, Dex seemed to have a pretty I remember some necromancers stacking Dex to proc their leech spells and stuff more often. It seemed to work as well up to level sort of 50ish anyway. I guess mobs start hitting too hard after that. Yeah, so necromancers became like tap tanks by stacking Dex stuff. It's amazing that you can still find those strange things in games that are so old. I'm sure people were doing it back in the day as well, but you can turn a caster class into a bit of a tank just by interacting increased Dex with some of their abilities. Pretty cool. It's funny though, because even that I wasn't sure of. Like, when I was playing my warrior the other day, and it was something that I remembered from leveling it up, was the amount of times I hit for one. It's like, Jesus. And I guess it depends on what mobs you're fighting. You know, maybe their AC defense has an impact, so, you know, but I mean, these were blue mobs. The amount of misses as well. Holy God. I mean, people used to say that the amount of misses that you got on knights was frustrating, but as a warrior as well. Just so many misses. Hello. I was dead. I'll always get up for a scarab at low levels in the same way that I'll always get up for a skeleton, even though they don't drop bloody bags. Hey, Alistra. No, I have a few people have mentioned it to me, and it does sound like an interesting concept. But I think it's just recently been taken down. Is that right? Because they were, I think Daybreak Games basically told them to take it down because they were selling a token or something. I think it was Hero's Journey anyway. Because I think Qualm took their server down as well for a little while, just in case. But I don't think that there's a problem with them. But yeah, I mean, if it's still around, I'll give it a go. But I did hear that that it had been taken down. Maybe if they stop selling the token, they can put it back up again. That's the one where you play. That's the one where you can pick 3 different classes on one character. Is that right? Seems quite interesting. I did theory craft it a bit as to what would be good. I think I came to the conclusion that it would be like taking damage, slow, plus DPS. Or there may be a tank that can charm. That would be pretty awesome. A tank that can charm and heal. There you go. Warrior, cleric, enchanter. Like that. I know enchanter cleric was definitely the best duo on P99 at high levels anyway. Have they extended the test, Liz, or is it just a different? Oh, okay, cool. So they've kind of sorted it out then. The other thing that kind of did put me off is that the videos I've seen of it, it's like Lukelin models, which is just not up my alley. I'm not sure if you can put the old models on or whatever. £6 PM today. Oh, okay, cool. Is it our time? I guess you mean our time. Yeah, I think the thing with cleric enchanter was just that complete heal was broken. Really, like if you're a 60 chanter and a 60 cleric and you're charming a mob in its 50s, like complete heal is healing so many more hit points than it would be if you're like healing even a warrior. Yeah, it's pretty OP. They were great enchanters, weren't they? Slow, haste, charm. Classic mobs, okay. What about the character models as well? Can you do? I guess I'm assuming you can if you. Yeah. What level am I? Level 5. Okay. Yeah, I'm allergic to the Lukelin models and stuff. I've said this before, I know, but I've noticed it in here as well. Although there are obviously like a lot of people playing, but there definitely does seem to be like a dip in interest in MMOs, like across the board, even new ones in development. Yeah, it seems to be like looking around at all of the emulated servers and stuff. There just seems to be a lot less people playing at the moment. Yeah, I always found between rattlesnake skins and some gathering and stuff, it's pretty easy to get up a fairly decent coinage. Yeah, maybe it was because it's only really ever been apart from a bit of weightlifting and cycling. Like gaming has only ever really been my only ever hobby. And I was talking about it because my son brought my grandson over, and we were playing some Super Mario World with him. And I was saying that the first game I ever played was it was around 45 years ago, and I think I've probably done some kind of gaming related thing, whether reading about it or playing a game, every day since then. I've never ever had times where I moved away from it or I got kind of fed up with it. You know, it's interesting. You can see it happening with any hobby, but I think it was my only hobby, and it puts my brain into a certain aspect it obviously likes. I think honestly, it's not an exaggeration to say over the last 45 years, I think every day I've done something gaming related, even if it was just reading a magazine or something. When I was faffing around with crafting recently, I noticed that I'm not sure if they've. Obviously, you can get there, but I noticed that some of the tiers and stuff are not quite right. Like there's a weird thing with bags where you kind of had to, before you could even make a bag, you had to get to a certain point, and I was kind of finding gaps. So trying to find something half useful to craft to increase your skill, there were some gaps there, but I'm sure all that stuff will be filled in. If they don't find some way of balancing combat outside of chevrons, then like for me, I wouldn't go back to Pantheon full time or long term, I should say. I just think it doesn't work in a classic MMO. As someone who's used to playing EverQuest, you can't tell me that I can't go into a dungeon unless I've got a group. That's just not. I'm afraid that's just not sandboxy enough for me. That's the sort of thing that that's the sort of thing that WoW did, not EverQuest. Yeah, I would say that I don't actually look at. I don't look at much in the way of gaming news anymore because it's just absolute shite. And the mainstream gaming press are obviously more interested in activism than actual gaming. I don't even think many of them are actually really gamers, but it's the only place I could get a job. But there's one or two like reviewers that I watch. Yeah, I remember. I mean, it was such a. I know it probably sound like some old nostalgia bait bloke, but there was something about going to a shop and buying. I mean, I used to go with a friend. Like for me, it was Zap 64. He used to buy Crash, the Spectrum magazine. Getting home and reading the magazine, seeing what Julian Rignall had to say about a game. If he liked it, I would generally probably like it. And then the activity of going to buy your game. I mean, one of the most exciting gaming things I ever saw that I never took part in because it just was culturally that's something that didn't happen here was I used to buy Edge magazine before that went to shit. And when the Saturn and PlayStation came out and the Super Famicom, I think, like someone would go to Japan, Akihabara or somewhere, and you'd get like queues of people waiting for the shop to open to buy their PlayStation, and they'd be coming out the store with it, and they were all excited and stuff. That act of physically going to buy something, like we've lost it, haven't we? Like even music and films and stuff. So I'm not, honestly not, but I understand if some people feel that I'm sounding like some sort of nostalgia bait kind of. But it really was, it was part of the experience of going and buying a game. As a kid, I'd get on a bus, and that was an adventure. Get home with my game, and then put it in, and realise that the heads on my Commodore 64 tape deck weren't aligned properly. This was before you got the tape deck with the button aligner on, so I'd have to get a little screwdriver and turn it, because I'd probably been playing some pirated game and I'd had to change it, or whatever. Yeah, so it was all part of the experience. And then, like, the best job I'd ever had was probably my lowest paid. Was I worked in a shop. I worked in the shop on Tottenham Court Road, the Amiga shop on Tottenham Court Road at the height of the Amiga. I went through the 1,000, the 500, the 600, and the 1,200 working in that shop. And it was like, as an Amiga owner, it was just like, I mean, there was me and like half a dozen other blokes, and we all loved the Amiga or the ST. A couple of them were ST Andys, because they did MIDI music and stuff. But yeah, like working in that shop when the Amiga was at its height, it was just amazing. Yeah, Friday nights down the Odeon, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I've got a shelf with games that I bought in the 80s and 90s on my shelf, because it's not. I mean, I just like having stuff on. Some of it I haven't even looked at for 20 years probably, but I just like having it on the shelf. It's just. It's the same with everything, though, isn't it? Like, I used to love going out and buying a new DVD or a VHS or a record, whatever, Yeah, well, I my time working in the games industry was for Virgin Interactive, and Virgin Interactive, we were the distributors for Capcom games, Lucasfilm games. So that was a great time. I mean, I was there when I was certainly there for Resi 2. I might be even there for Resi 1. I'm not sure, but some Lucasfilm games. Yeah, that was a great time. So yeah, I really did like. Yeah, the Amiga is my favourite computer ever. I've used a PC for more years, but there was just something about the Amiga, working in the shop, culturally working with a load of young blokes who were just like me. We'd bring demos in and we'd play games in the shop and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, just phenomenal. Buying the big clunky half a meg upgrade to play Dungeon Master, and yeah, I think I remember at one point. I think I remember having like 3 or 4 drives attached to the daisy chain drives to the Amiga. Yeah, some games did have. And when I think back there, I was because the company I worked for, Silica Systems, were the biggest Amiga and Atari distributors in the UK at the time, but they did retail as well. Yeah, I was like, I remember when the CD32 came out, the CD, because Commodore did an Amiga. Commodore released an Amiga that they tried to make it like an interact. It looked like a CD player or a video recorder, CD TV it was called, I think it may be, and they released that, and everything was on CD. Didn't really take off. CD32 didn't really take off either, which was a shame, because it was like a bit like a 1200 CD drive attached. The problem that the Amiga had was arcade conversions. It just didn't have the quality of programmers that. So like, I would say arguably, well, an Amiga 1200 was more powerful than the Mega Drive, I would say. But the people converting arcade games for the Mega Drive, obviously some of them work for Sega, you know, and that kind of stuff. Whereas the people converting, like, you know, Outrun and Street Fighter and stuff for the Amiga were just like British blokes, you know, and quite often there was one of them like who would get sent the arcade game and say, like, can you convert this, you know, to the Amiga and the 64 and stuff. And I think the Amiga could have probably carried on a bit longer, but I think the Mega Drive came in and the arcade conversions were just so much more superior. When I worked at Virgin Interactive, well, that was a great job. The office was in some square in London, really posh square, in a posh part of London. That was pretty cool, going up there every day. Saying that though, in the summer, getting on the tube, that wasn't so much fun because they weren't air conditioned. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I think the Amiga was probably where I'd played role playing games on my 64, but I think like some of the SSI stuff and whatnot. I think the Amiga was probably where I really started playing role playing games, and maybe the PC as well, like Gold Box stuff and that kind of thing. But yeah, Dungeon Master on the Amiga stands out pretty. Dragonlance stuff and whatever. Not sure if I've said it. I'm sure I've said it before, but my first game was like first game I ever saw. I didn't really play it. A friend of a friend had I think it was an older brother, because we wouldn't have been able to afford it. He was probably working, and he had I don't know if it was a ZX80 or a ZX81, but it was like it was a horry shoot 'em up, but all the spaceships were mathematical symbols, and it wasn't any scrolling. You moved your ship up and down the very limited amount of rows, and just press the space bar to kill the thing that was glitching towards you. That was the first time, and I was like, holy smoke, this is amazing. And then a friend next door to me, again, this must have been about 80, 81 maybe. He got a Woody, he got an Atari VCS, and in the school holidays we would just play Space Invaders and Combat pretty much all day through the summer holidays. And this is how bad it was. Like when I went on holiday with my family to a local kind of Kent or Essex seaside town, I never went on the beach at all. I just used to save up 10p's, and I'd spend all my time in the arcade. for the whole holiday. That was it, basically. No beach, no sun, no girls, just games. I taught myself Dragon's Lair once, one of those places. It's the first time I saw it. I thought, oh my god, this is amazing. I haven't seen anything like it. The old Laserdisc running. And I taught myself. I don't know how much it cost. I mean, we was pretty poor at the time. So I just had a bag of 10p's. But I watched people play it and I'd play it. And eventually learned how to play it. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Gauntlet as well. Like me and my uncle would play. There was like they had a 4-player gauntlet, so four sticks and buttons and stuff. That was pretty amazing. There's a football game there as well. It's like a workout where it was a rollerball to move your player around, and the faster you moved the rollerball, the quicker your player ran. And you'd get these like big proper blokes like pushing this ball. I'm sure the machine must have needed repairing after every game. Yeah, just a rollerball you roll to move your character around. Playing Super Mario World with my grandson yesterday, just, and this is definitely not nostalgia. Like, I was playing it and I thought, I don't remember that. Wow, look at that. It's like we seem to have lost the art of game design almost. It's just amazing. I was thinking, God, that's amazing. Like, look at that. And even the little touches as well, where there's a like ghost house level, and when you start some of the other levels, the level just starts. But for these levels, like Mario walks up to the gate and he kind of looks up all scared at the big ghost house before he goes through the door. It's like just loads of little touches like that as well. It's phenomenal. We're trying to work out all the pipes you can go down and you can't go down. Game Boy, yeah, wow. Maybe the most culturally iconic console ever. Certainly handhelds. We had, I was going back to saying about the shop that I worked at. Yeah, the C32, but we also... because we were Atari, like I was there when the Atari Jaguar first came out as well. And we actually got one of the very, very rare CD drives in. Only one into the shop. Because I think it was mainly dead at that point. I wish I'd have bought it now and kept it mint in a box. That would have been pretty cool. The Atari Lynx as well. What a handheld that was. I don't think it probably didn't get any traction in Japan particularly, but yeah, that was great. Sega Game Gear, it was all right, but the screen was terrible, wasn't it? It really was blurry. Quite a while ago, I saw a retro place that does screen replacements for it, but yeah, that was pretty cool. And I think I think at that point it's becoming a bit less. Maybe it was the other way around actually. I think there was an attachment for the Game Gear that let you plug your Master System games in, maybe. I can't remember. I guess at that point, it probably wasn't particularly... Commodore 64 was the first gaming system that I owned, though. Myself. I don't know why I got the 64 in the end for Christmas. Because the two friends that two people I was friends with both had Spectrums. I'm not quite sure how I ended up with a. Yeah, the battery was low. The Lynx, I think, as well was pretty bad in that regard. Playing like I think it was California Games on the Lynx though. That was a great experience. And they had that game that was a bit like Afterburner. I can't remember what it was called. Because I think it had sprite scaling as well, like the Neo Geo. Oh, the Neo Geo, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. Much later down the line, I had like an arcade cabinet with MVS cartridges and stuff, but I was foolish enough to buy a Neo Geo console when it came out. And I could never own more than 2 games because they were so expensive. To get a game, you'd kind of have to trade in another game. You know, it was crazy. But the visual and audio difference between that and a Mega Drive or something at the time was just amazing. Sometimes I still catch myself like humming, bouncing along to the Magician Lord music or something. I love that. Or Fatal Fury or something. Yeah, but they did SNK did a handheld as well, didn't they? And the CD drive as well, CD unit. I was thinking about doing a lot more retro stuff on the channel, but you know, I keep thinking about doing a lot of things on the channel. Not really. I haven't got my retro stuff out yet since we moved. There's a guy on Facebook Marketplace. There's a guy selling a 21-inch Sony Trinitron with a couple of SCART sockets on the back, and I'm keeping an eye on it. But it's that kind of thing where, like, retro gaming become like everything else, where everyone wants eBay prices, even if it's not on eBay or not. Yeah, you wanted like 300 quid for it. It's like, no, I don't think so. I'll see if it comes down in price. You're not on eBay, mate. You know, literally, you're in Margate, not eBay. So, yeah. I was thinking about. I've been looking at the upscalers as well, like the what's the big upscaling? Yeah, big upscaler. They recently released a 4K one, so I was thinking about getting one of those and just attaching it to my TV, and then maybe potentially attaching that to something like some video capture stuff to stream through the PC, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, this was 21-inch. That was the ideal size actually, but yeah, it's just eBay pricing. If it was one of those like professional Sony monitors, like the 14-inch ones that only seem to be available in America, like I'd pay a lot for that, but not for a CRT, even if it is a Trinitron. I think if I managed to get a TV or an upscaler, I'd need to get. I sold my one, but I had like a chipped Saturn, and I'd like to get a chipped Saturn so I can buy Japanese games for it, because that was. I know it kind of 3D side of it powered in the shadow of the PlayStation, but the sprite based stuff on the Saturn is just second to none. Like not quite Neo Geo quality, but you know, with the RAM cartridge expansion, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, that was on my old arcade machine, which I had an Egret too, and I sold it. It's like the worst thing I've ever done. Like they're selling for just thousands and thousands now. That was a bad move. I think it was a size issue, but even so, I still should have stuck with it. Yeah, that was some of my first videos, I think, weren't they? All that time ago, Neo Geo ones, and Minecraft as well. I just got into Minecraft. I don't know quite what that was about. Where am I going? I don't know where I'm going. I was going to go and maybe get some more armor. And kind of like when I did that video on P99, that was kind of where the channel took off, really. Well, it was where the channel took off. Some of the, I think I did a few Amiga games as well and stuff. The Neo Geo stuff, that got quite a lot of views, but it's kind of hit and miss, really. Yeah. When I look back at those videos now, it's quite funny. I still do it now, but quite a lot of umming and ahhing. Whereas not so much trying to think of something to say, but yeah, it was actually quite difficult just talking to no one and not go, you know, that kind of thing. It's quite funny. It's quite a funny thing. I think that's why you get people who almost are completely talentless, apart from being able to talk into a camera, like for chat shows and stuff, because they've got no personality or no whatever. But I think it must be just quite a difficult skill to talk into a camera, and yeah, and not keep going and whatever. Oh, you got the shaman thing like I did. Do you know what? Honestly, I made so many more shamans that I never recorded with because I was embarrassed. Because it did get to a point where people kept saying, "Oh, not another shaman," you know, and so I was a bit self-conscious about it. So I just had shaman that. I think you might have seen a barbarian one, but I had quite a high-level barbarian one at one point as well that I didn't. I don't think I really recorded anything with. I thought I can't do another one. People are going to go mental. That's quite funny. I should cook stuff, but I can't be bothered. But yeah, definitely from a character point of view, I was definitely the. I think I definitely became known as like the procrastinator of P99, because other people doing content like level 1 and stuff, like they actually got somewhere, did stuff, and did raiding and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it's just like the. What am I doing? I don't think I know where I'm going. Do I need to be here? I'll go and sell those skins, I guess. I don't know if it's because, I mean, it was a niche market, but people seem to like me just like hitting record for half an hour playing EverQuest and just waffling about stuff with no script. And I guess it was just because I don't know if you just run out of things to say, but it got to a point where I found it really hard to do that. Yeah, I got really hard to do that. I just couldn't think of anything to say that was interesting. Whereas when I was doing it initially, it didn't really. Yeah, I mean, I love the concept of a necromancer. I love horror and undead and stuff, but I just never. Maybe it's something I need to go back to. Yeah, but I think I took a break and I just found it really hard to capture that format again, where it didn't sound like you're obviously trying to think of things to say, you know. Right, what am I doing? I don't need to buy any spells, really, not to get to level 8. Oh, I need to go. I was going to go and do this, wasn't I? I had big plans for P99 2 or 3 years ago, but that kind of really... I had a friend who I thought approached it really well in that he had like a... what should we get? Should we get some legs? 3 and 2. There's a friend of the channel who... who had the right idea, I think, and he had like a roster of a few level 50 somethings, and he kind of did that on purpose. So what he would do, which I think was a good idea, was if he logged into EverQuest one day, he kind of had a few characters around that sort of few different classes around that sort of level, and he could just play whatever he felt like playing, you know. And it was kind of like what style of gameplay do I kind of want today, kind of thing. And that was something that I was thinking about doing at some point, but I guess it kind of started with the warrior. Yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. Just like streaming's really hard. Like I don't find it comfortable at all, actually. In many ways, you know, it's difficult to, because even if you're a small streamer and if you've got one person watching you, you always feel that you need to entertain them, and that's kind of what you're here for, really. I think that's what Asmongold is so good at. Like, even if you don't like his views on stuff or whatever, like, he always seems to be absolutely on it all the time, and he's always sometimes creating things to talk about, like, you know, purposely combative and that kind of thing. But I think that's what people seem to like for the most part. Let's put some of this crap in the bank. We don't want that. We don't want that. I don't really want that because I'm just not doing any crafting at the moment. That's for a quest. I still need these for a quest. Yeah, I've got 7 silver now, so early levels. Get on the rattlesnake skins. They're it's going back to what I was saying earlier on about like really finding the whole player content stuff around MMOs like a bit repugnant. And I really hated it a while ago. This is quite a few years ago now, but there was a spate of people who would stream P99 and they would have like one of those progress bars up and they were just streaming to get their epic. And then as soon as they got their epic, they didn't stream anymore. I really hated that sort of stuff. Really got on my nose. Yeah, that was a real meta thing a while back. I remember quite a few people doing that. And then they would come back again with a different class to get the epic. And they had a bar that was like progress towards epic or something. And then you never saw them again after that until... Yeah, never liked that kind of thing. That's one of the things, I mean, it must have been the same for you, Alistair, as a cleric as well, but one of the things I enjoyed on P99, playing a shaman, was just like running around and you see someone and you just go and buff them. That was always one of the most fun parts. Very rarely, like only once or twice, like some people would get a bit antsy about it, you know. I think for some people it can be quite a stressful process. Like, you're playing an MMO, and for some reason, I think it's quite easy to get to a point where you always think an interaction with a player is going to be bad, and so you someone runs up to you and you think, oh, they're just going to fuck with me or something, or going to make things difficult and whatnot. So I had that a couple of times, but I just buff them and run on, you know. I enjoy talking about game design, and I guess a lot of the talk is maybe not the sort of thing that someone who's designing the game wants to hear, but you know, it's just I've always felt pretty responsible. I've always felt pretty responsible for the channel with regards to people, like the people watching it. Like I mean, I've had it a couple of times before, but not intentionally. You know, where I've played a game and someone else has bought it, and we've talking about it afterwards, and they said, "Yeah, I bought the game because I saw you play it, but it kind of turned out to be a bit shit, didn't it?" And I went, "Yeah, it did really." You know, so that's why I'm maybe more over. I've said it before. Maybe that's why I'm more overly critical. But yeah, I do feel responsible if someone comes along and buys a game. Do you know how mental is that? Do you know what? I know I've moaned about Pantheon a lot, but I'm going to do it again. I could not believe the buffing mechanics in Pantheon. It's second only to Chevrons. So I was running around playing my shaman, and I buffed myself, and there was some dude, I buffed him as well, I run off, and I needed to use some different spells. So I unlearned my buffs, and I took the spells off my bar, and the buffs dropped. Like, what? You're telling me that I've got to keep the buffs on my bar after I've cast them to keep the buffs up? Yeah, you're having a laugh. That is like, Pantheon has made so many ridiculous design decisions. And when I looked into it, people were going, "Oh, well, it means you've got to make a choice." It's kind of like, what's the term that they use? And that's rubbish. That is absolute bullshit. Like, having to keep the buffs on your bar to keep the buffs up is just ridiculous. Whoever thought of that? You've got to make meaningful choices. Bullshit. Unbelievable. It just means that you're locked out of using other spells, essentially. If you get into a group, that group's going to want buffs. So there's no meaningful choice there. You're not going to get into a group and say, "Okay, right, I want to use my pet, and I want to have this buffs pet." No. Either it's buffs or you leave the group. You know, I mean, that is ridiculous that you can't. That is a real rant topic, that one. It's absolutely... I could not believe that someone had designed a system where if you buff someone and you remove the buff, you lose the buff. That is... I thought it was a bug. That's how bad it was. I thought this must be a bug because no one would design this. But no, they did. I know there's probably some of you in the chat who... or might watch it who, like Pantheon and whatever, and maybe you're sick of me moaning about it, but so much of that game needs to be rethought with regards to design. I mean, if you can't fly by buff someone, that's ridiculous. It's crazy. I honestly thought, wow, this must be a bug, because I was clicking off the buffs and they were leaving my buff bar. I thought, no. And I found out that's how they designed it. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. There were a couple of classes where that kind of worked from a meaningful choice point of view. So as a rogue you had a bar. Or as a rogue you've got a bar where you can only put up certain skills and stuff, right? So different damage types and things. So I kind of understand it there. It's kind of meaningful. If I go into a dungeon and there's I can use this damage type or whatever and whatnot. But buffing is just ridiculous. Like, The other thing with that as well is that with the buff thing that's quite trolly, like what's to stop a shaman from buffing someone? That someone runs into a mob that they're probably not capable of dealing with, and you just drop the buffs. you go running off. You know, it's like, yeah, that, I mean, that boggled my mind that I couldn't just buff someone and then change my spells over. I can't even, you can't even buff yourself and change your spells over. It's crazy. I think we've said before, but there are some design decisions that might sound good on a whiteboard or look good on a whiteboard, but they're not really in reality. That's not one that even looks good written down as like just throwing ideas around. I mean, that is just really bad. We talk about things being social as well, and you find, you know, like flyby buffing is there's quite a big social aspect to it as well. Like a number of times I got into a chat with someone that I've buffed. They said thanks and whatever, and we had a little chat and that, you know. I flyby buff someone, and someone I might never have spoken to, you know, send me a tell saying, "Are you the guy that does the videos?" Yeah. Yeah, I think that is more of a design. I'm not sure that's something that needs to be roughened out though. That's more of a design, just a design decision that doesn't really. I mean, you can do it, obviously. I mean, you know, they've done a lot of stuff that I would say is outside of the realm of a classic MMO, but it's just. I think as we said on Saturday, I think with a lot of the games, there are a lot of little things that build up as to why people might not stop playing the game because of that. But there's a lot of little things like that build up that just causes them to drift away. And the amount of like flyby, like buffing, doing that kind of thing to like a new player or a new character as well who wasn't twinked or whatever is also like you can almost feel an audible sigh. You can always hear an audible sigh through your speakers. You know, when you roll up and you buff someone and they're like, "Oh, thank you." You know, even a simple Spirit of Wolf is. Yeah, I don't mind that actually. You know, like, honestly, I'm sure it's another one of those things where the badge wearing pretend classic players would moan about, but I don't care if a game comes out and the buff stays up till you die. You know, I mean, timers, I guess, is from an EverQuest point of view, is like an old kind of something left over from like D&D and that kind of thing. You know, I don't think it's a. It was a mechanic in classic, but I don't think it. I mean, it's not a hill I would die on. You know, if Monsters of Memory decided to do it, it wouldn't really have any impact on my enjoyment. One of the classes that stand out for me so far on this, in that it's kind of very similar, but it's got some good ideas that make it more group friendly, is the elementalist, or the equivalent of the magician. So like each of the different pets has got a group buff, which I quite like. I use the air pet a fair bit because I think the air pet gives you a chance to proc like an extra attack around, I think, and it seemed to go off pretty quickly. It seemed to proc quite a lot. So yeah, I like the idea of making some of those classes that maybe traditionally weren't as group focused, a bit more group focused. I think that's pretty cool. I'd like to see the cleric get some more group love. You know, it's all really well just healing, but I'd like to see some. You know, I'd like to see like supplication is a 30-second buff, like single target. I'd like to see there be a group version of that. I'm not sure if there is actually. I haven't looked at the list, but a group version of that where you cast it 30 seconds, everyone gets more strength, that kind of thing. You know. I know the cleric is group focused, but it's generally all about healing. It'd be nice if it had some group buffs and stuff as well. Even like as Liz was saying, like some auras, like just chuck off a quick 30-second aura to do something, you know, little buff or something, or you know, little AOE undead kind of mares or something or whatever, that kind of thing. Yeah, I think just making the classes a bit more versatile, particularly from a grouping point of view. Yeah, I think every class should have a thing where it's like, you know, looking for group elementalist, and the group goes, yes, please, come over, as opposed to going, oh no, not really. Wizards particularly need that. I haven't played a wizard here yet, but yeah, just give wizards more to do in a group. Nuke shit, but you know. Maybe give wizard a little 30-second aura for mana. You know, chucks a little aura out, increases mana, or chucks a little aura out, increases damage for a little bit or something, or that kind of thing. I quite like the idea of more just instant things to do in a group, you know, just to fire and forget for 30 seconds. I quite like the idea of that. I like the Inquisitor to have like a non-undead version of a, you know, a group of mobs come in and he's seriously inquisitioning those dudes. A little AoE mez or something, or a stun, you know, as they run in. I think I've said this before, but I always love the theming of the Lord of the Rings Online for some of the classes. I love the burglar's like riddle skill, where it always visually looked like he was giving the mob a riddle and they're standing there going, trying to work it out. It was really cool. Just that kind of stuff. I have to say that the cash shop didn't really have any impact on me because I didn't interact with it, I guess. I don't think it's a good thing, but I don't have that dislike of cash shops that a lot of... Oh, I think I was going to go and get some... Oh no, I got them. I was going to get some leggings, but I got them. Yeah, I don't have that hatred of cash shops. I can understand it, but I just haven't really got it. I think there's obviously a limit, but... It was like in another MMO I played, I can't remember which one it was. Like, you know, if little Johnny got to level 60 quicker than me through buying an XP potion, I never felt it had any impact on my experience, really. Yeah. But, yeah, of course it is a problem. I think the issue is that if you get with a group of people who are using it and you're not, you know, then you're gonna fall behind and... Yeah, I mean, I can see why people don't like it, but it wouldn't. Honestly, it wouldn't bother me if a shop sold a potion that puts someone instantly to max level. I just don't know what. I don't know how it's affecting me. I guess I'm not quite sure what impact it's having on me. Really, economically, I don't know. I've never been convinced that there's ever been an MMO economy, particularly that works very well, because players always find a way to exploit something, or you know, or to game something. So I don't know. I don't know. It's like if I if I if I if I if when I first started P99 they sold max level potions, and what impact could it have on me? I don't know. Maybe there'd be a lot more fungi tunics in circulation. Could be more people hunting them. I'm not sure really. I can understand why some people would find it an issue, but I'm not sure. I think those people would be very quickly exposed, obviously, when they get in a group. If you go on P99 and buy a level 60, and you could buy a level 60 potion, and you've never played the game before, or you've never been that high, and then you get in a group, you know. But I can understand why you say it takes away some of the stuff for yourself. Yeah, I do. I understand it. For me, it never really felt like it impacted much. Actually, thinking about it, like if a new guild can suddenly create a guild full of raiders, no, I don't like it for that. I don't like it for that. If a guild can just create an army of raiders just by buying a potion, that's obviously going to be a bad thing. I would say, yeah, forget that. Just for that reason. And I suppose the thing is that also, I guess that's why twinking is such a cool mechanic, I guess. I guess if you could buy your way there, like at least as a twink, generally you've earned the equipment in some form. You still got to level up, obviously, and even as a twink, that still takes time. So yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think a game actively trying to stop twinking is another red flag for me. I just think it's such a part of the EverQuest experience. Yeah, I mean, I don't like level limits on items at all. Just I wouldn't mind it if it was like a rare, I don't know, like if there's a rare role playing thing with it, Like maybe you pick up a sentient sword and it thinks that you're not worthy of it yet, or that kind of thing. Like an occasional item, maybe like an artifact or something. But yeah, just like arbitrary levels on items is just rubbish. Anyway, friends, well, I'm going to bugger off. Over the 3-hour mark. That's been the longest stream I've ever done, I would say. Yes, yeah, so I think, as Liz said, I think M&M is going down. About 6, so I can't stream it anymore. Till next time. Yeah, but I'll be back. I've slowly kind of weaned myself off of June. And I'm slowly weaning myself off on my cleric on P99. So maybe we'll do some of that next time. Yeah, I think on P99, I think there were some epics that seemed to be unfairly difficult to get in comparison to some others. Whether or not they were more powerful or not, I think is probably questionable. But I generally quite liked the idea of epics, and I like the epics on EverQuest. I don't know. I would rather that the player, there was a way of also having a thing where the player went through the rite of passage more themselves. And I'm not talking about soloing everything, but I think there's some epics where you kind of need a raid, and I'm not sure. Not sure I quite like that idea. Maybe it would be less epic then. I don't know. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. As I said, yeah, like what we'll probably do is stream some cleric on P99 maybe next time. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.